Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday to you. Thanks for everybody for joining. Welcome to another episode of What You Aren't Being Told by the Mainstream Media. Today we'll cover COVID-19, more Hunter Biden stuff, some polls, the Tony Bobulinski interview from yesterday. But before that, please follow us on Twitter and IG, Instagram at America's New C, and our Facebook and YouTube and website, America's New Clothes. You can also find us on Periscope as well. Please like this video and share it with your friends if you like the content. Thank you. So first, we'll cover COVID-19 and a couple breaking stories from yesterday and today that are rather eye-opening. In the EU, they're implementing more strict lockdowns and curfews in Spain. Italy imposed curfew on restaurants, and they're closing gyms and pools and movie theaters as well. In France, and it just was reported, just broke on The Guardian here. I'll read you some of the headlines in just a second. They reported 52,000 new cases on Sunday, which is a new record for them. It now has the fifth largest caseload in the world. The Polish president tested positive as well, but says he has no symptoms. He apologized to those around him that he may have come in contact with. Meanwhile, in Latin America, Colombia became the third country in the region to have over 1 million cases, along with Brazil and Argentina. You may recall that Spain and Italy and France and much of the EU had strict lockdowns and face mask mandates back in the late spring and summer, and slowly lifted them here in the kind of leading into the fall. So no matter how harsh the lockdowns were, the progressive politicians and the mainstream media were praising Italy and Spain, France, basically everyone who was locking down harshly for the draconian lockdowns that they were leading by example. Colombia, where I was actually just at the onset of the lockdowns. I was in Medellin, and the hotel I was staying in tried to lock me in for 14 days in the hotel because they messed up when the edict came out from the president, Duque, and when my passport stamp actually showed I arrived into the country. So I was able to work with them, make sure I could get out of the country. The place was a ghost town when I left. Nobody was on the streets. The airports were empty. But luckily I was able to get down. But despite strict lockdowns in Colombia, and I've talked with friends there all the time. A friend of mine just went back from Costa Rica into Colombia as well. But despite all the lockdowns they had, where men were only allowed out, every other day, and women were allowed out every other day, other than that, they're seeing a dramatic spike. So basically, for everyone who believes that, cowered in the basement to ride this pandemic out, it's just pure lunacy. I've said that from the beginning, that you're not going to be able to hide from infections. And so, the good thing is this virus is showing now that it's much weaker than it was in the beginning, despite its ability to mutate. And it's proven much less lethal than all the estimates. Some of them by tenfold. So, but guess which country in the EU has said that they believed that using the herd immunity aspect of the way they looked at approaching it, and would target only kind of soft lockdown, but not to destroy its way of life and harm its citizens from just destroying their everyday life. Their cases have spiked a little bit here recently, but it's flatlined. So cases are going up, deaths are flatlined, deaths are almost at a minimum. And that's true around the world. You're seeing that pretty much everywhere. Sweden has a lower per capita death tally than most all of continental EU. And you may recall that Time just published an article 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago now, a scathing article that was titled, "The Swedish COVID-19 response is a disaster. It shouldn't be a model for the rest of the world." Well, clearly France and Spain and Italy shouldn't either. Neither should Colombia. Neither should Argentina. Colombia now is, along with Argentina and Brazil, number 3, or they just entered. They're the third country to enter more than 1 million cases. So it's been disingenuous to say that lockdowns are going to keep this virus from spreading. It's just not true. So, and Donald Trump's right with regards to, call it Arizona, Florida, Texas, some of the Sun Belt, who saw a spike in cases back in the late summer. Those have leveled out now. And again, just look at hospitalization and death counts; they're way down. Now, if we look at the CDC latest, these guys are contradicting themselves all the time and moving the goalposts. Where I don't even think there's a stadium anymore. The stadium's gotten too big as the goalposts keep moving. They just released yesterday that they will no longer compile influenza data for 2020 and 2021. Why? I guess the flu no longer exists, and around the world is down, I think, 95%. So flu cases are down. CDC is not going to cover it anymore. So I guess the good thing is that you don't have to worry about the flu. And yes, one of my favorite sports guys to follow now, Clay Travis, states, with the Rona Bros and all the fear porn, that they have to push this fear to control the narrative, and they have to control your mind. They have to continue to make you think that you're going to die from it, or that if you get it, you're going to be harmed for 10 years, and your organs are going to be heavily impacted. We're 8 months into the first cases. We have no idea if that's gonna be true or not. We know that organs like the liver, basically replenishes itself every 6 years, I think it is, or something like that. And again, the one thing they continue not to tell you is eating healthy. Melania Trump beat it with vitamin A, vitamin D, and eating healthy. Could there be lingering effects? Sure, you have some people. I've got friends of mine that have had it. They said they had a lingering cough for a while. Most are fine now. But again, they have to keep pushing into you that this fear it has to drive the narrative. This fear is going to control you. So shame your neighbors. Keep telling yourself that the mask, is for your protection. The CDC stated on Tucker Carlson's show in response to his a segment that he had, that the masks are not meant to protect the wearer, which makes no sense. So if it's not protecting the wearer, then who's it protecting? If we're all wearing it, then it's not protecting any of us. So, it's just common sense at this point. Like I said, the Rona Bros, they love to push this to make sure that you all stay sheep and that you're easily controlled. Sure, we may have people that we know had the coronavirus, but 98.5% of all people survive it. So, and it's not infecting kids. If it is, it's very mild. Most people don't even know they have it as well. So, you can look to the published stats on that to see per age group what the likelihood is of mortality, and the infection fatality rate is it's so low. It doesn't even bear repeating. It's just, you have a better chance of being struck by lightning twice in your life than you do dying from COVID-19. You have a higher chance of dying in a 3,000-mile car travel, or 300-mile car travel, than you do from COVID-19. There's just all kinds of stats that show that your chances are infinitesimally small. So, but if you're going to worry about it, again, fear dominates the mind. So many studies have been done on fear control, and what our government and what we're allowing our government and media to know is we can be controlled by fear. And this is not going to be the last time we see something like this. They're already pushing this dark winter narrative that cases are going to spike. Fauci was just out there, I think yesterday or the day before, on one of the CNN shows, Burnett, I think, Aaron Burnett's show, saying that, yes, I would be in favor of a mandated mask or a mask mandate, and we're not going to return to normal to 2022. Who the is this dude, right? I mean, we've given him so much control. He's like the emperor that has no clothes. He's been wrong on just about everything, and he's contradicted himself on just about everything. So if you want to pay attention to him, then, fine. I guess that's your prerogative. The other thing the CDC is not going to do, that the CDC is doing, is they, in the world, has now labeled coronavirus, which is SARS-CoV-2, as COVID-19. Now, what is COVID-19 exactly? COVID-19 is not solely SARS-CoV-2, so it's not just coronavirus. COVID-19 now encompasses coronavirus, pneumonia, SARS-1, H1N1, MERS, influenza, basically anything that you catch that can be contributed or attributed to a coronavirus born disease or born virus is now COVID-19. So the numbers are going to be much larger than they actually are. Again, just use logic here. What's going on? Why are they changing all the rules? Again, they have to keep you fearful. So take that into consideration. Again, we'll post all this stuff, or I've got it posted in the description box below for these articles as well. NPR on the 20th of this month, they reported an article that said, quote unquote, studies point to big drop in COVID-19 death rates. Now I think they were saying that if you entered the hospital, you had a 25.7% chance of dying, whereas now it's down to 7.6. That's still high as well. So again, just do your own homework on this, but I'm assuming that, again, it's just ironic that we're a week before election time. Cases are spiking. The fear porn comes out. They got to scare everybody, hoping to keep the elderly, especially the elderly people and those people who may have a comorbidity, trying to scare them into staying home. They have to depress the vote for you because otherwise Democrats have no shot. So anyway, looking at The Guardian. So if you look at The Guardian or a headline today, about France, it came out, and here's what France is doing on their nationwide lockdown. This is from Macron. This was as of 2 hours ago. He signed documents which will once again be needed for people to leave home, and moving between regions will no longer be possible. So you have to have a document just to leave your house, and you can't go from, I guess from Bordeaux down to Montpellier or wherever. So you can't be moving inside of France either. It's just dumb. People can only leave the house to buy essential goods, seek medical attention, and use their daily 1 hour allocation of exercise. Okay, I can't. Unlike the previous lockdown, it says most schools are to remain open, ding, 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 while universities will revert to online teaching and working from home will be generalized. Visits to care homes will be allowed, as will funerals. So why are they allowing schools to remain open so the children can go? Because children aren't getting it. Why are our schools down? Makes no sense. Most all of Europe, even in the cases like France and Italy and Spain, they're still allowing their kids to go to school. Again, as you've seen reports over the last couple of weeks or last couple of months, this lockdown seems to be going to end for school-age kids on November 4th or 5th. Funny, after the election. This is all contrived to suppress the vote. I can go into it forever, but anyway, use your head. So otherwise, the other headlines there were Germany to bring in new rules after record surge in cases. EU leaders are urged to aid transfer of patients between countries. China sees its highest cases in 2 months, and U.S. adds nearly 500,000 cases in a week. And the UK Europe faces more lockdowns. So again, it's bordering on insanity at this point. And again, I just ask, why are cases all of a sudden spiking right before a U.S. election that is trying to drive fear in the whole hysteria? So what's interesting too on this, as other people have indicated, is that you have other ailments and diseases and illnesses that aren't being paid attention to. Everybody's so focused on COVID-19 with 200,000 deaths and a infection fatality rate of like 0.17 or 0.017. I'm sorry. Oh no, 0.17. Yeah. So it's just nuts. But what we're missing is the opioid overdose, for example. Just using this as just one of the cases in 2020. Compared to 2019, it's up 95% in Syracuse, 70% in Oregon, 50% in Kentucky, and 25% in Maine. Just a 50% increase in opioid deaths would increase total excess deaths by 35,000. So, again, just there are other causes of deaths going on around the world. Be focused on those. It just all seems to be COVID-19 related. So for anyone who has someone suffering from cancer or liver disease or anything, just anything, that aren't getting the proper treatment that they should have gotten during this whole thing, or that passed away already. My heart breaks for those people because it wasn't necessary. And I won't even get into the whole, this is Donald Trump's fault and every death lies with him, because that's just stupidity. So anyway, but on the opioid, we make a jump to the Hunter Biden tapes, since he's a meth head and crackhead. So Hunter Biden tapes were released that have him talking to someone as he references someone in particular on the phone who he was in partnership with. And I will read the contents. I tried to do the audio, but it won't play. The content of his message is as follows. And I'll link it in the description so you can hear it for yourself. Hunter says on the call, "I get calls from my father to tell me that the New York Times is calling, but my old partner, Eric, who literally has done me harm for I don't know how long, is the one taking the calls because my father will not stop sending the calls to Eric. I have another New York Times reporter calling out my representation of Patrick Ho, the effing spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who is worth $323 billion, founded and is now missing. Missing, he says. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment inside a $4 billion and signed a $4 billion deal to build the largest LNG port, which is liquid natural gas port in the world. And I am receiving calls from the Southern District of New York from the U.S. Attorney himself. My best friend in business, Devin Archer, has named me as a witness without telling me in a criminal case, and my father without telling me." I mean, again, it's just, this guy is, he's a walking, not conspiracy. I mean, they've just got him entrapped. I mean, he's beholden to China. Joe Biden's beholden to China as well. And they've got videos of him, as we've seen on the laptop. Now, Newsweek did report about this Tony Bobulinski thing, which I'm about to get into, but said that none of his claims are verified. Of course, Newsweek's going to run cover for him, as is all the media. It got the Tony Bobulinski interview yesterday got 0 minutes of coverage on any of the network television stations, and none of CNN's or MSNBC. They're running cover, trying to run the clock out, making sure you don't hear this. What Tony Bobulinski is he's a former Navy intel, Q clearance, which is one of the highest clearances you can get with the NSA and the DOE. What his interview shows, he factually walked through the evidence, who he met with, conversations that he had. He had documents of the emails and texts that were sent to him, that were originated by someone else, sent to him, so that he didn't control this, he didn't concoct it and make it up. And it's all out there. He got picked up by the FBI on Monday morning to do an interview, so they interviewed him. So clearly he's legit, or the FBI would have been like, this guy's a Yahoo, we don't need to pay attention to him. So he goes on and says that he meets with Joe Biden after Hunter has prepped his dad on everything and kind of what Tony brings to the table. They meet at the Beverly Hilton. And they go through just kind of a get to know you. Wasn't in depth, as Tony said. It wasn't to go over cap tables and where the equity's coming from and how it's going to be parsed out or whatever. But just kind of, hey, I'm Tony. This is what I've done in the past. This is who I am. Joe kind of saying, look, this is important for us. Yada yada yada. Then that meeting breaks. He goes across Santa Monica Boulevard to the Peninsula Hotel and has a sit down with Jim Biden. Now, if Jim Biden is the brains of the operation on the Biden family, Jim's a dope. Jim's an idiot. So the fact that he was running things for the Biden family is in and of itself suspect. But anyway, there's a quote that when Tony was saying, he was talking to him of just saying, hey, and Tony saying, as having been in Intel and knowing what, kind of blackmail and how things can work between, a country like Russia, who has dirt on somebody, and how they can back you into a corner and get you to do what they want. He just says, look, Jim, how are you guys getting around this? I mean, you got foreign registry type stuff going on or whatever. And, you're talking about the CFC, which is a communist controlled entity, energy company in China. And Jim's words were, with a chuckle, plausible deniability, which essentially means lie. And you're seeing that playing out right now, as anybody asks Jim or Joe Biden, hey, what's going on with this? And he just says, that's a lie. It's Russian disinformation. And Tony says that's what pissed him off, is that when he sees Adam Schiff and these guys coming out in the mainstream media saying that this is Russia disinformation. And he's like, look, that's basically saying that what I'm doing is treason, and I'm not going to let my name and my family name be dragged through that. So he gave a gentleman that represents the family 24 or 12 hours by midnight on a certain night to have them say, yep, okay, it's not Russian disinformation. He said, I want to give them a chance to come and do the right thing. They didn't do it. I came public. So if you watch the video, which I'll link part of it, you can't find the full video on YouTube, as YouTube has censored it because they don't want you to know this. As ironically as the CEO or the CEO of Google was this morning in front of Congress, or Senate, which was just ludicrous. But he clearly lays out, Tony Bobulinski clearly lays out that the crime family called the Bidens, use Hunter to use the Biden name to make money across the world while insulating Pops, quote unquote, the big guy, behind multi-million dollar deals, interest-free loans that were made. And then you see Tony says it started to unravel when he was awaiting the $10 million, the $5 million to his company to seed the capital, or as the seed capital, start the firm and start their project, what they're supposed to be doing, and then $5 million interest-free loan to the Biden family. Then he reads a report that he saw that the heads of CEFC were meeting in Russia, that there had been some deal with Rosneft, a energy company in Russia that's state-owned, that they were going to sell to CEFC 14% of the company. Now, look at the Steele dossier. How much percentage did they claim that Carter Page was getting of Rosneft? 19%. As we know now, that would have been $12 billion to Carter Page, which is loot. How do you hide that much money? If he was a Putin puppet and was on the Trump camp, they would have easily been able to nail him for that. So it's just ironic that percentages are somewhat similar, 14 and 19%. But he said when he reads that article or sees that headline, that's when he knows, all right, something's not right here. So he then goes and confronts Hunter and says, hey, man, haven't been able to get a hold of you. What's going on? Are you going around my back? And he says, well, no, but I'm actually now representing that third lawyer, I guess it's called the chairman, or one of the chairmen or whatever of CEFC, as his direct representative. So in other words, Tony says, you went around my back. So that falls out of that, completely collapses, obviously. So now you have the vice president's son representing the energy company who's now buying a state-owned Russia energy company for 14%. That company, Rosneft, is on the United States sanctions list, and the Chinese gentleman got denied his visas returning to the United States multiple times. So Hunter is now representing a company who's buying a fairly large percentage of a U.S. state-sanctioned Russia company, and is his direct representative. Again, you can't make this up. So anyway, I'll again link some of these things as well that you can read and explore for yourself. Also, going to the polls now, and we'll finish up. Rasmussen's last presidential poll was released today. Yesterday, it had Biden up 49 to 47. On Monday, it had Trump up 1 point, 48-47, so it flip-flopped. Today, he's up 48-47. So that's the last poll that was done by Rasmussen. Now, this is a big move from just, I think, 3 weeks ago. It had Biden up 12, and then I think tightened last week to up 5 as suburban women seem to start moving towards Donald Trump. Now, the 2016 poll that was done by Rasmussen, the last poll, had it tied between Hillary Clinton and Trump at 44-44. So anyway, you're looking at all of these national polls that are showing 12 point, 8 point, 5 point. Rasmussen was one of the most accurate. There was 2 of them, but Rasmussen was the most accurate, at least on the conservative side, most accurate in 2016. They've been all over the place, quite honestly. I think they had Trump up 5 a month and a half or so ago. Like I said, had Biden up 12 just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now it's Trump up 1. So to the battleground state polls, ABC and the WAPO poll that was released today about Wisconsin has Biden up 17 points. I mean, okay. Meanwhile, Trafalgar, who was the most accurate polling group of battleground states in 2016, he has Biden up by 0.4. So again, it's just to suppress the vote, keep people in Wisconsin to believing that even despite the 10,000 people that Trump just had at a rally just a couple, this week, I think a couple weeks ago or last week, he had another 7,000, 8,000 people. He gets multiple thousands of people wherever he goes. But if you believe ABC and WAPO, 17 points. I'll give you my take on why that is in just a second. But Trafalgar also has Trump up in Pennsylvania by 0.8%, so 0.8, and in North Carolina by 2.8. The Pennsylvania poll was yesterday, and the North Carolina poll was on Monday. Now, why are they doing this? Now, my feeling of this is that what you have is they're trying to show that there is no chance that Trump has to win. These polls are going to show 5 points, 8 points, 12 points, 17 points, or whatever. And when Trump does win that state or wins the election, they can then point and say, there is no way he had to cheat. He had to, there had to be mass voter fraud going on. They're going to send their people out into the streets. They're going to cause all kinds of chaos and havoc. If you read the Transition Integrity Project that was done, this ends up being basically scenario 3 or scenario 4. It just shows a very, very narrow Trump win, because nobody believes Trump's going to win by 5 points, right, in the national polling. And nobody believes he's going to win with 400 electoral votes. So it's going to be roughly probably the same as it was last time. I can see Trump winning about 326 to 330 electoral votes this time. But this is their way of saying he had no chance. So look at all these polls, all you Democrat people, the media is going to be pushing this, that there's no way he had a chance of winning. The polls were way bigger than they were, wider margins than they were for Hillary. They weren't within the margin of error, so there's just no way he can win. So they're going to do this to drum up the angst amongst their militia wing of the party, which is called Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They're going to send them out starting really on Wednesday, because on Tuesday, as it's coming in, it looks like Trump's going to win. These guys are going to be out. And as you're seeing in Beverly Hills, they're closing down Rodeo Drive and boarding it up. You're going to see all kinds of lockdowns going on, self-imposed lockdowns on Tuesday night. And obviously that will continue. So you're going to see mass chaos going on as these polls show. They were just wrong. So anyway, just wanted to close with that. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back tomorrow. Again, like our page, share it with all your friends if you like the content, find it entertaining or interesting, and we will talk to you tomorrow.